For 15 years I trusted him. For 15 years. I considered her a sister, until I found the earring in his suitcase. And then they dared to invite me to the wedding. And then they said that I had made it up for myself. But at the wedding, I turned on the video. I'd always thought that life, with its little routines, had a certain calmness to it, a quiet, predictable rhythm. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. And Alex was mine, too. He was my rock, the person I'd chosen to spend my life with. It wasn't a whirlwind romance or an intense love story. It was steady, built on trust, time, and shared moments. We'd been married for 15 years, and in all that time, I'd never once questioned him. He was the man I woke up next to every day, the one who held my hand during tough times, the one who made me laugh, even when I didn't feel like it, the one I protected, sometimes even from his own mistakes. That morning felt like any other. Alex had another business trip. He'd been away a lot recently, but it wasn't anything unusual. The life of a corporate executive, I'd told myself, came with travel. I understood. I didn't mind, or at least, I didn't let myself mind. I'd grown used to his absences, and I'd found comfort in the routine of it all. He'd left early, before I'd had a chance to get out of bed. As usual, the soft rustling of his suitcase being zipped up signaled his departure. I smiled sleepily as he kissed me on the forehead. He didn't need to say much, I knew the drill. "Don't forget to call when you land," I mumbled, still half asleep. "I won't," he promised, his voice warm, but distant. There was always a distance. Maybe it was the nature of his job, or maybe it was something else. I didn't question it, at least, not then. Once the front door clicked shut behind him, I started my day. The house was quiet, too quiet without him. I decided to get a jump on a few things. The guest room needed organizing, and there were some old family pictures I wanted to sort through. I began to work my way through the clutter in our bedroom, old books, misplaced shoes, receipts he'd left behind. It was during this moment of clearing away his things, trying to make the space feel just a little bit more mine in his absence, that I came across it, the suitcase. I knew it wasn't supposed to be there. Alex had already left, and his suitcase was usually tucked away neatly in the hallway, ready to go, but this one had been left on the bed, half open, as if he'd forgotten something or was in a rush. I'd never been the type of person to snoop, that wasn't who I was, but in that moment, I was drawn to it. The small, familiar motion of unzipping the suitcase seemed like the most natural thing in the world. What I found, though, was anything but natural. The earring lay on top of his clothes, nestled between his shirts and ties. I froze the moment I saw it. I knew that earring. I could feel my chest tightening, my pulse quickening as recognition hit me. It was a small, delicate thing, silver with a tiny sapphire at the center. Laura's earring, my sister's. I had bought those earrings for her birthday years ago. I had been so proud of them at the time, so excited to see her face when she opened the gift. She had always been my little sister, someone I watched over, someone I protected from harm, someone I forgave time and time again. I'd forgiven her when she lied about breaking her first car. I'd forgiven her when she got herself into debt and asked me to bail her out. I'd even forgiven her when she'd stolen money from me, convinced herself it was for a good cause. But this was different. I stared at the earring in my hand, the pieces of the puzzle starting to form in my mind. How could it be here, in Alex's suitcase? My mind raced, thoughts and questions colliding. Had she left it behind during one of the visits she'd made? Maybe she'd come over to stay when I wasn't home. But no, the earring had always been something she wore on special occasions. I couldn't imagine her taking it off carelessly. And then it hit me. Could it be? I felt a sickening twist in my stomach as the possibility took root, but I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to even entertain the thought, so I pushed it away, buried it deep down where it wouldn't surface. I told myself it meant nothing. Maybe I had just imagined the connection. Maybe it wasn't even Laura's earring after all. Maybe it was just a coincidence, but deep down, I knew better. I knew it was hers. For the rest of the morning, I went through the motions, my mind drifting back to that moment every few minutes. It gnawed at me. I tried to distract myself, tried to focus on anything else, but all I could think of was that damn earring. I should have let it go. I should have ignored it, just trusted Alex like I always had. But something inside me, some small, buried instinct, urged me to do something I had never done before. I had to know the truth. And that meant, for the first time, questioning the one person I never thought I would. The earring sat on my vanity for days, like a silent accusation, reminding me that something wasn't right. I didn't touch it after that initial moment, didn't dare. I couldn't. It had somehow become this heavy, suffocating thing that I could no longer ignore. But I also couldn't bring myself to confront Alex. Not yet. Not until I knew more. I needed answers, but I didn't want to raise suspicions, make myself look paranoid. It wasn't like me to doubt him, and I wasn't sure if I even knew how to handle the questions that were starting to fester inside me. That afternoon, I did what I knew best. I started asking myself questions, the kind I should have asked before. Looking back now, I can see the patterns I had ignored, but back then, it was all so subtle, so easy to overlook. For one, Alex had been gone a lot lately, more than usual. Business trips had always been a part of his job, but recently, they had become more frequent, longer. I used to say nothing because I trusted him. He was always so careful with his phone, his messages, and his schedule. There was nothing suspicious about it, or at least, that's what I told myself. But then there was the way he'd been acting lately, cold, distant. He used to send me messages from the road, little things, how's your day, or miss you. Now, I couldn't remember the last time I'd received one of those messages. He'd become so wrapped up in his work, so focused on whatever business deal he was handling, that it felt like he barely noticed I existed when he wasn't at home. I'd let it slide. We all go through phases, right? Maybe it was just a rough patch. But the earring made me question everything. I needed to know more, but how could I find out? I couldn't just ask him outright, that would make it all real, and I wasn't ready to face that, not yet. So, I did what any desperate person would do. I started my own investigation. I began with Laura. I told myself I was simply being cautious. Surely, I could ask her about the earring without raising suspicion. So, I called her one evening after dinner, pretending to be casual. "Hey, Laura," I said, trying to sound normal, my voice betraying none of the unease in my chest. "I found one of your earrings, the silver ones with the sapphire. I thought you'd lost it." There was a pause on the other end. "What? No, I haven't lost any earrings," she replied, her voice light but a little too fast. "Which one are you talking about?" I told her, the one I had found in Alex's suitcase. "Oh," she said, sounding almost too surprised. "That's strange. I haven't seen that earring in forever." I could hear the nervousness in her tone, but I couldn't quite place why it made my stomach tighten. "Are you sure? I thought you'd left it here once or, maybe you dropped it when you were visiting." She hesitated. "No, I don't remember that at all. Maybe it's just a coincidence." "Yeah, maybe," I replied, my voice strained now. "I just thought I'd check. Anyway, I'll leave it here if you want to grab it." "Thanks, but I'm sure it's nothing," Laura said quickly, almost too quickly. I could feel the lie hanging in the air between us. It didn't make sense. Why was she so nervous? Why was she acting so evasive? It didn't add up. But I didn't push her. I ended the conversation, though the unease in my chest hadn't subsided. If anything, it had deepened. Now, I needed to look at Alex's behavior more closely. His phone was the obvious place to start, but I wasn't naive. I knew he'd be careful. He always had been. Still, I couldn't resist the temptation. Late one night, after he'd gone to bed, I snuck into his study. His phone was plugged in on the desk, charging. My hands shook as I reached for it. I wasn't the type of person to invade anyone's privacy, let alone my husband's, but in that moment, I was willing to do anything to uncover the truth. I unlocked the phone. He never bothered to set a passcode, something I had always found a little strange. His messages were open on the screen, though nothing jumped out at me immediately. I started scrolling through the past few days, looking for any sign, any clue. There were business emails, mundane check-ins with colleagues, and random texts about meetings, but there was something I hadn't noticed before, a name I didn't recognize. The name was Annabelle. I stopped scrolling, the screen blurring in front of my eyes. Who was Annabelle? The name appeared frequently in his recent messages, all texted during his most recent trip. They were casual, almost flirtatious, with an intimacy I hadn't seen in his messages to me. But it was a simple message that made my blood run cold. I miss you. Can't wait to see you again soon. I could barely breathe. My hands trembled as I pulled my phone back and stared at it. My heart pounded in my chest, every beat making me feel like I was suffocating. I had to know more, but I already knew, deep down, what I was going to find. I closed his phone and sat there for a long while, staring at the screen. The weight of betrayal pressed down on me, suffocating me, but something else started to creep in, a cold, calculating resolve. I wouldn't just let this go. I would make him pay for what he'd done. It's funny how, in the quiet aftermath of a discovery, the world feels different. Every sound, every movement around me felt muted, as though I were submerged in water, unable to fully comprehend what was happening. For the first time in years, I didn't know who my husband was. Alex, the man I had spent my life with, had become a stranger. The man I trusted with everything, with my heart, my future, had betrayed me in a way I never imagined possible. But now I had proof, not just the earring, but the messages, the intimate words exchanged with someone I had never heard of, Annabelle. I couldn't help but replay the words in my head over and over. I miss you. Can't wait to see you again soon. I stared at his phone, feeling the weight of his lies pressing down on me. He had been so careful, so meticulous in keeping his affairs hidden, but he hadn't counted on me finding the cracks that now threatened to tear everything apart. It was late that night when I heard the front door open. Alex had returned from his trip earlier than expected. I didn't get up. I stayed on the couch, staring at the darkness in front of me, the dim glow of his phone still flickering on the table beside me. He entered, his footsteps slow, as if he sensed something was wrong, but I didn't acknowledge him. Not yet. I wasn't ready to face him, not until I had all the answers. He stood in the doorway for a while, watching me. I could feel his gaze, searching for some reaction, some sign that I knew, but I didn't move. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction. Finally, he spoke. You okay? I didn't respond immediately. I had to think about it. Did I even know what okay felt like anymore? Did I want to be okay? I'm fine, I said, my voice flat. I didn't recognize it, but it felt like a mask, a perfect, cold mask. His footsteps came closer, and then he sat beside me on the couch, his hand instinctively reaching for mine, but I pulled away before he could touch me. He frowned. What's going on, honey? You seem distant. I turned my head slowly, meeting his eyes. Distant? I repeated, tasting the word on my tongue. Is that what you think it is? His expression shifted, confusion flickering across his face. What's wrong? I stared at him for a long time. How could I even look at him? How could I sit there, pretending everything was normal, when the foundation of our relationship had been built on lies? You've been distant, Alex, I said softly, almost mockingly, for a while now. He shifted, obviously uncomfortable with the direction the conversation was taking. I don't know what you mean. Work's just been a lot lately. I could feel the lie in his words. His eyes darted away, a tell he had when he was hiding something. I know, I replied. Work. You've been so wrapped up in work, haven't you? So busy. I could feel the bitterness rising in my throat. I can't remember the last time you really looked at me. or even thought about me. He reached out again, this time gently touching my arm, but I pulled away again. Come on, don't do this. Don't do what? I asked, my voice growing colder. Ask questions? Find answers? He froze, and I could see his face hardening, his brow furrowed, his jaw tightening. What do you mean? I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I stood up, walking over to the table where his phone was still lying. I picked it up, my fingers brushing over the screen, and then I turned back to face him. You tell me, Alex, I said quietly, holding up the phone. His face drained of color as he saw what I was holding. Who's Annabelle? He blinked, clearly taken aback. What are you talking about? I took a step forward. Don't lie to me. I know. I found the messages. His eyes flickered to the phone, then back to me. It's not what you think. She's just a colleague. Don't lie to me. I interrupted, my voice rising now. I know what I read. Alex, you've been having an affair, haven't you? He didn't say anything for a long time. His lips parted, but no words came out. And for the first time in our marriage, I felt a sick sense of satisfaction in watching him squirm. He had betrayed me. He had betrayed us. Tell me I'm wrong, I said, my voice shaking, not with fear, but with something darker. Tell me I'm wrong, and I'll believe you. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out, and in that silence, I heard the truth I had known all along, but had been too afraid to confront. I knew something was off, I whispered, more to myself than to him. I should have known. You've been different, and I've been blind. How could I not see it? Alex opened his mouth again, but I stopped him. Don't even try to explain yourself. There's no excuse for this, no excuse for what you've done. His face softened, and he stepped toward me, but I took a step back. Please, he said, his voice almost pleading. Let's talk about this. We can fix it. I shook my head. There's nothing to fix. It's over, Alex. He reached for me again, but I pulled away, my hands trembling now. I was done. I had waited for so long to hear him beg, to hear him apologize, but now that I had it, now that I had everything, I realized I didn't need it. I didn't need him. What I needed was justice. I'll make sure you understand, I said, my voice cold. You'll pay for this. We both will. And for the first time, I felt no guilt, no hesitation, just cold, unfeeling justice. I don't think I had fully understood what I was capable of until that moment, the moment when I stood there, watching him, and realized how much I had already changed. The woman who had once loved him, who had trusted him with her heart and soul, was no longer there. She was gone, replaced by something sharper, colder, something that wouldn't stop until it saw everything he had worked for crumble to dust. Alex spent the next few days apologizing, trying to salvage what was left of our relationship. He came home with flowers, with promises of change, of how he would fix everything, but I couldn't look at him the same way anymore. His words were hollow, his touch felt foreign. I listened, I nodded, but inside I was already plotting my next move. I had all the time in the world now. He thought I was just angry, he thought I was just hurt. He had no idea how deeply my betrayal had cut, and he had no idea how deeply I would make him feel it. But this wasn't about me anymore. It was about everything I had built, everything he had taken for granted, the years we spent together, the trust one had given him, the sacrifices I had made. They meant nothing to him, nothing. I wasn't going to let him get away with this. No, not this time. My first move was simple, but it set the tone for everything that came after. I began to subtly undermine his reputation. I dropped little hints about his behavior at work, to a few of his colleagues who I knew would listen. At first, it seemed harmless, a passing comment about how his priorities had changed or how he'd been distracted lately. But slowly, those whispers spread, and as they did, they began to paint a picture of a man who was unreliable, who was no longer trustworthy. Then, I turned my attention to Laura. It took only a little digging to uncover the truth. My sister had been in on this from the start. It was as if I had been blind to everything around me. All the signs had been there, in plain sight, and yet I had been too loyal to see them. She had been sleeping with Alex, behind my back, for months. I don't know what hurt more, the affair itself, or the fact that it was my own sister, the person who had been closest to me, the one I had always protected, had taken everything I had given her and betrayed me in the worst possible way. I knew exactly what I had to do. The confrontation happened one night, when she called me to meet her for dinner. It wasn't unusual, we had always kept in touch, but this time, everything felt different. As I sat across from her in the dimly lit restaurant, I watched her nervously avoid my gaze. I could see the guilt written all over her face. "Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. She tried to smile, but it was forced, unnatural. I leaned forward slowly, my fingers curling around the edge of the table. "You're going to regret what you did to me, Laura." Her face paled, and I saw the color drain from her cheeks. "What do you mean?" she asked, though I could see the panic in her eyes. "You and Alex," I said, my voice low but deadly calm. "I know everything. The affair, how long has it been going on?" She swallowed hard, her lips trembling. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I never wanted to." "But you did," I interrupted, cutting her off. "You took everything from me, Laura. You took my trust. You took my husband. You took my family." Tears welled up in her eyes, but I felt no sympathy, none. "Please, I never meant for any of this to happen," she begged, her voice breaking. "You should have thought about that before you slept with him," I said coldly. "Now, everything you have, everything you've built, is about to come crashing down." I could see her starting to panic. She looked around, as if she could escape, but there was no escape, not from me, not now. "You're going to lose everything, Laura," I whispered, "and I'm going to make sure of it." I stood up slowly, leaving her there, wide-eyed and shaking. She wouldn't stop me, no one would. The final step came just a few days later, when I called a meeting with Alex's business partners. I had gathered all the evidence I needed, the whispers, the suspicions, the lies. It was time for them to know the truth. I watched from the corner of the room as Alex sat at the head of the table, his face pale, his eyes darting around the room nervously. He knew something was coming, but he couldn't have known the extent of it. "You wanted to talk about the future of the company," I began, my voice steady, cutting through the silence, "but I think it's time we talk about something else first." I took a deep breath and laid everything out, the affair, the lies, how he had used his position to cover it all up. I wasn't gentle, I wasn't kind. I made sure every last detail was known. I made sure everyone in the room saw him for what he truly was. The room was silent as the implications sank in. Alex looked as if the floor had just dropped out beneath him. His hands trembled as he reached for a glass of water, but he couldn't even manage to lift it. His reputation, his career, everything he had worked for, it was all slipping through his fingers, just like that. And as I watched him, I felt nothing, no satisfaction, no joy, just cold, detached fairness. This was what he deserved. "I'm sorry," I said quietly, though I wasn't sure if I was speaking to him or to myself, "but you made your choices, now you'll live with them." I turned to leave, but before I did, I looked back at him one last time. His face was a mask of shame and regret, but it was too late. I had won. And I was free.